So I'm working across the right side of stockinette stitch right now, all knit stitches, and I'm going to stop and turn my work and work a shadow wrap. So your pattern might say wrap and turn, or it might just say turn. I'm knitting, so my yarn's in the back, and I'm turning on a knit stitch. That's the stitch that's to be wrapped and turned. So if your pattern says wrap and turn, that's the stitch that you would wrap, but instead of wrapping it, I'm going to work a shadow wrap, which is not actually wrapping it. The stitch below the actual stitch, I'm going to make a new stitch coming out of that stitch. That's what's going to happen. Okay, so that's this stitch down here below is the stitch I'm going to stick my needle into. Like that. And then knit into it. See what's happening. And lift that stitch up onto the left hand needle next to the other stitch. So now there are two stitches coming out of that one lower stitch, including the stitch that my yarn is attached to. And now I'm going to turn. So that wrapped stitch is now the right hand needle with my yarn coming out of it, as it should be. And I'm ready to knit in the other direction without there being a hole. And by knit I mean purl, because I'm on reverse stockinette now. My yarn is in front, and my next stitches to work are purl stitches, so I'm all set to purl. So I'm going to purl across. And now I'm going to wrap and turn, or shadow wrap and turn, on the reverse side. So I'm going to work a shadow wrap into this purl stitch. Now again, my yarn is already on the correct side. It's on the front because I've been purling, and I'm wrapping a purl stitch, so I leave it in front. And the way you do a purl stitch, you're going to do the same exact thing where you're making a twin stitch into the bottom stitch, but you can't get to it on the purl side the right way that you need to go into it. What you need to do is slip the top regular stitch onto your right hand needle. Now use the left hand needle to lift up that bottom stitch so that you can purl into it. Now purl into the bottom stitch. And now you have the two twin stitches coming out of the same bottom stitch, but now they're on the right hand needle, so you're going to slip them back over to the left hand needle. And turn. So now you have your working yarn coming out of the right hand needle stitch along with the twin stitch on that, coming out of the same lower stitch there, to knit in the other direction. Okay, so here's the first twin stitch I made and the second twin stitch I made. Now these twin stitches are treated like one single stitch. When they're coming out of the same lower stitch, make sure you don't accidentally knit them as two separate stitches. Make sure you keep track of what's what. Keep your stitches kind of spread out on the needle, then it should be really obvious. They're coming out of the same stitch down there. And so it's going to be kind of like you're knitting two together, but they're already stuck together, so you just knit them as if they are one. So I'm going to knit across. Now I've come to this, so I treat it like it's one regular stitch. Knit through it regularly. Keep on going. And everything is all seamless there with no holes. I'm purling across the back side. I reach the twin stitch from before, and I purl through two together as if they are one, and keep going. Now one last thing, if you're working something other than stockinette, then you might need to move your yarn around some more. So if you're working stockinette, your yarn is on the back side to wrap a knit stitch. If you're working like garter stitch or something, you might need to move the yarn. And then once you turn, like if you need to knit now instead of purl, just move your yarn to the back the same as if you were purling and then you switch to knitting. Just move it between front and back, no problem. And same with if you're doing a purl stitch and your yarn is starting out on the back, just move it to the front. So I think that's about everything you need to know about shadow wraps, and I'll show you my weird wonky swatch with all these random wrap and turns. If you're knitting an actual pattern that makes sense, then you're going to have a bit more of a pattern to your wavy fabric. But you can see here how the swatch looks really weird because I wrapped and turned in all random places. How there's no holes and it's all kind of just looks like knit stitches. That's the shadow wrap.